Gracia of Libreville, Gabon. A Marine Kingdom agent overcomes pastors through fornication and replaces his anointing with demonic power. Everything started from my birth through the name I was given. It culminated when my father and mother got divorced. My mother gave me the name of Gracia, which is the name of a water siren that dwells and rules in the Pacific Ocean. After their divorce, my mother sent me to live with her senior sister. When I was living there, things were really not good for me and my education. I became a delinquent and started to go out with women. I got myself into lesbianism. I was also going out with men. I became a prostitute. Then my auntie decided to hand me back to my mum. When I got back to my mother, I began to hang around with girls who were in beauty and fashion. I discovered and became attracted to the celebrities' lifestyle, and I had the desire to be rich and recognized. I became fascinated with fame and the celebrity lifestyle, fashion, and music. I began to dream of becoming like them. I was especially struck by the Kardashian family. I wanted to be like them. Then one of my friends told me, "It is possible to get all this wealth and be beautiful. I can show you someone who can help you get where you want to go." That friend of mine was a Muslim, but she was also in the occult and she was a Marine Kingdom agent. She failed to mention that the person she was talking about was not a human being. She said, "We are going to see a woman." But she did not specify that the woman was a siren in the Moanda River. At this stage of my teenage life, I have become disrespectful to my mother. I did not care what she thought and I have no consideration of what she was saying. I was doing what I wanted. I became rebellious and delinquent. I was going out when I wanted and coming back when I wanted. I was leading a hedonistic, libertine lifestyle. Then I went out with my Muslim friend that night. We went to the river. It was past midnight. We reached the river bank. My friend started to do conjuring and mystic prayer on the river bank. Then a mermaid came out of the river. She had a fishtail. She did not have a shirt on her upper part. I got scared, but I held myself together. The siren asked us, "Why have we summoned her?" Then the girl started to explain to the siren what I wanted and my aspiration. Then the siren asked her, "Does she agree to the terms of the covenant?" She said yes, and the siren asked me, "Do you agree?" I said yes. Then the siren said, "Everything will be okay." Then she asked us to bring 2 white candles, 2 red candles. She also asked for menstrual blood and 3 eggs. My Muslim friend assured me that there is no problem. She will gather all the things requested by the siren. Later she gathered the eggs, the candles, and the menstrual blood. Then 2 days later, we went back to the river at midnight. My friend started to do conjuring and summoning again. Then the siren appeared again. She came with a parchment. The terms and conditions of the covenant were already written in that parchment. She asked me to sign in. I told her that I do not have a pen to sign in. She cut me around my hand to allow my blood to drop, and she caused me to sign the covenant with my blood on that parchment with her. I still have the scar on my hand that I can show people. I put my name and signature on that parchment. Then we threw everything in the water, the eggs, the candles, the blood. Then the siren said, "It's done. The covenant is sealed now. Everything you want, we will give them to you." 2 weeks after the sealing of the covenant, the siren began to come to visit me at home, and we were going out in the city together. She took the shape of an ordinary human being. She was just like an ordinary woman but with a lot of hair. She was coming in the daylight like a normal human being, as she is able to take any human shape, and she was coming like an African woman with a lot of hair, and no one would ever suspect that she was a marine entity. My mother thought that she was just one of my many friends. I was no longer close to my Muslim friend who brought me to her. The siren became my closest friend. She commissioned me to sleep with married men in order to destroy their families. Every month I was given a specific number of men to sleep with. My parents were divorced when I was young. I did not like married men with families or couples who were together. I thought they didn't deserve to be together. I did not experience real family life. As a consequence of the divorce, I was affected psychologically, so I was jealous. I could not tolerate seeing a family together. I wanted to destroy families. My assignment was to sleep with married men, and once the sexual contact happened, I would then control their hearts. I would turn their hearts against their wives. They will not tolerate their wives. They will perceive their wives to be old and ugly, and that will cause these men to divorce them. These men would be filled with feelings of rejection for their wives. I managed to break up 22 families as a result of my assignments. I could sleep with 15 different men per day. In the beginning, it was okay. Later I felt like I was a prostitute. During that period, my relation with my mother was non-existent because I felt rejected by her. I really hated her. As I was holding hatred and grudges against her, I stopped my studies. I was no longer living with her. One of the married men I was going out with was renting a room for me. And in that very room, I was bringing other married men. Even if one of them catches me in the act, I was capable of mastering their spirit and dominating them. In the meantime, my mother did not know where I was living. She could not find me. She started looking for me. She did a wanted poster. Later she managed to find me. Then we moved to another city. My auntie took me to this new city away from friends so that I could continue my studies, but my heart was somewhere else. In this new city, I began to hear stories about a powerful mermaid. I developed a diabolical curiosity. I wanted to know mysterious things. I decided in my heart that I must meet this mermaid. I went to the riverbank in the night. I did conjuring and summoning prayer. Then the siren appeared with her fishtail, but instead of fish scales, there were thorns all over her tail. She asked me, "What can I do for you and what do you want from me?" I replied, "I want to have a covenant with you." She asked me, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, I am." Then I signed a covenant with her. She gave me the power to cause deformation to fetus or babies in the womb just by a simple look. Later my relationship with my auntie deteriorated. It became confrontational. While living with her, my siren girlfriend was still coming to visit me. I did not mention my new covenant with the new mermaid. This new siren was feeding herself with the fetus flesh and blood. Eventually, I moved to Franceville, and over there, I established another covenant with another siren, but this one had shaved her hair and her scales were red and she wanted blood all the time. She was not easy. While working for this siren, I seduced 5 pastors. Pastors have different degrees of power or anointing. Sometimes I went to churches to check the pastor's levels. If a pastor is anointed, then I would have to leave my demons and siren at the door because of the anointing. I was always walking with 5 demons and my siren. They were invisible. When I come to church like that, I will ask for a consultation with the pastor. My demons would stay outside the church. While in consultation, I would just stare at the pastor in his eyes to seduce him. Once the pastor is seduced, I could then control and dominate him. Later I was then assigned to sleep with 30 men in 1 month. In this assignment, pastors were the prime target, followed by the married men. It was tough because other men were refusing and pastors were difficult. In this case, I would write their names on a blank sheet of paper and go to the river. I would break eggs on their names by quoting their names and doing incantations so that they can be dominated and forced to change their minds. I targeted pastors and I managed to seduce 5 of them. I was attending and joining churches for this purpose. Christians and pastors are always protected and barricaded in flames of fire. That is why my siren and demons had to stay outside when I attend churches. It is easy to know if a pastor is in truth or in sin or in holiness because Christians' aura and flames of fire are always very visible. One day I visited a church, but because it was a dead church, I managed to enter inside with my 5 demons and my siren. I asked to talk with the pastor. While talking, I managed to bewitch him through my eyes and I seduced him. The moment I had sexual contact with any pastor, what will happen is that the pastor's anointing will leave him and his flames will go off. As a result, he will come under my manipulation. I will replace his anointing with demonic power. The pastor will not realize it. He will continue to pray for people. they will be healed. But that healing in itself is the transfer of demonic power I bestowed upon him. While sleeping with pastors or married men, there was also a transfer of demons. As a result, the people that the pastors pray for will have problems because the power he is releasing is not of God anymore. Now in that list of 30 people given to me by that siren to sleep with, pastors or men of God were the priority. So I had to sleep with 15 pastors and the remaining 15 were married men. When I reached the end of the month, I could not fulfill my obligation. Then the siren of Manda said, because you are unable to fulfill your obligation, then you must in the minimum sleep with a pastor. I had to travel from church to try and seduce a weak pastor, which was not easy. As I was delinquent, I got pregnant. I had a baby. Although it was a cesarean, it was okay. The baby was kept by my sister who was a born-again Christian. Now the sirens were pressuring me to offer my baby as a human sacrifice to them, but thank God who kept the child. One day the siren came again and said, I want your child. As I was angry, I said, go get her. She is with my sister. Then the siren said, you're gonna get her and bring her to me. She was upset as she feeds herself with babies and fetuses. When it was night, I went out of my body and I traveled to my sister's place, but because she was a born-again Christian, her house was surrounded and barricaded by flames of fire. I tried hard but it was risky and dangerous. I said to myself, if I continue I could lose my life. I came back home. The siren asked, where is the baby? I replied, I tried but I could not. Maybe you should. But I don't know whether she went or not. After some time, I became pregnant again. I was forced to abort in order to allow the siren to feed herself with the baby. After I aborted my baby, she ate the baby and drank the blood. Later she asked for another baby for sacrifice. As I refused to give her my baby, she asked me to give my tube to her. I gave it to her. I no longer had a tube to give birth to a child. I no longer had menstrual blood. As I was in covenant with 3 sirens, one of them especially that of Moanda, I could meet her only through out-of-body travel or astral traveling. From my room, I will close the door to avoid suspicion, or I will go to the bush and I will lay down and do out-of-body travel. When out of the body, I can differentiate easily between a Christian and an unbeliever. I can also see the difference between Christians. There are newly converted Christians with little fire. There are backslidden Christians with the fire going off, and there are holy Christians full of flames of fire. When I do out-of-body traveling, I see a lot of things, especially about Christians. When a Christian sleeps in the night, a lot of things happen. When I fly in the night, there are just 2 categories of humans. There are Christians' houses surrounded by flames of fire, which is very dangerous, and there are non-Christian houses with no rooftops. We were able to enter this kind of house and sow bad things. Matthew 13:25. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and went away. We were also capable of seeing through the rooftops of newly converted baby Christians. We would then sow things that will cause them to sin, and the moment they sin, their little flames would be turned off. Sin makes the Christian unprotected. Their flames of fire will turn off and their protection removed. If a Christian is surrounded by flames, we will investigate whether he has non-converted friends. Once we identified one, we will sow things in him so that he becomes a stumbling block to that Christian. He will serve as a bridge to us. As a consequence, the protective flame covering the house will be removed because of sin. There was a Christian that was so hated by these mermaids. She insisted that I must sleep with that Christian at all cost. He went to Libreville. I followed him there, and over there, I was staying with my family. I made a decision that this Tuesday I have to sleep with him or I will cause him to die in an accident here in Libreville. I had an uncle and a friend. They invited me to a Christian crusade. At this stage of my life, I was tired of the occult and its restrictions, but I was afraid. I knew that my life was on the line if I'd break the law. I decided to attend the Christian crusade. I said to myself, this is an opportunity to seduce Christians. I came and entered the church building with my demons instead of leaving them outside, as I thought there was no power and no anointing. Now when the pastor was preaching, I noticed that the demons who were walking with me were leaving one by one. And the more the pastor preached, the more I felt something setting me free. There was anointing covering me. I found myself in front of the church altar. Then God showed the pastor that there was a water siren in the church. This was the beginning of the conversion process. The following day I was baptized with water. It was a very long and hard process because these sirens continued to appear to Murph.